This world doesn't need a hero. It needs a professional.
Hey guys, it's GG here. So, first of all, I'd like to wish everyone a happy 4th of July. Hopefully everyone is safe and didn't do anything dumb. But today, I am reviewing The Witcher, Old World. I do not have the retail edition or the deluxe retail edition. I just have the Kickstarter all in. But I do know that the retail edition, what it comes with, both the deluxe and the standard, I just don't know what minis come in the deluxe, so I'm not going to separate them out. So that being said, let's get to how The Witcher works with setup. So as you can see on the table right now, the game is pretty much set up. So one of the things you do is you're going to get level 1 monsters and you're going to draw these random tokens, and we have forest, water, and mountain. And then you take the monster and you place it on the location. That's pretty much where you're going to hunt monsters. You get your game board, and right now I have Kylar. He is from the School of the Cat, and he's going to start down here in Stygia. So all his stats right now are level 1. That's the default stat. And depending on how many players there are, you're going to start with X amount of cards that you draw already, and money. So every character gets a deck of 10 cards. They are actually marked by their school in the upper right corner. If you happen to have the Kickstarter stuff, I'm not sure if this is going to come in an expansion. I haven't looked into those yet. These are really hard to separate. The only way you can actually know that it goes to the right guy is the art actually matches the game board art. And it's actually really annoying when you're sorting through. So that's kind of a pet peeve, but it is what it is. But as you can see with this board, we have 4 stats. We have combat, defensive, alchemy, and speed. So these stats are literally what determines things that affect the game. And in the corner here we have the shield marker, and this is basically health. It is going to prevent damage until you take damage. And damage is dealt really through your deck. So your cards are your life. Real key important note. So when you level a stat, you're going to do what it tells you to do. And then at the far right, we have your special. So your special is going to trigger it on a bunch of stuff. So Kylar's here is just look at 1, draw a card. But when he gets to level 2 in combat, he's going to look at the top 3 cards, draw a card. And then so on, draw 2, draw 3, and then it maxes out. Really cool fact is, once you get up to level 5, these stat can never be reduced. So anytime a stat reaches level 5, it cannot be reduced. Also, another really cool thing, as a side note, because I like to say side notes a lot, we have this thing called trophies, and this is actually the goal of the game. So when you start as your class, you're going to get X trophies for other players, and this is basically how other players can defeat you to collect your trophy from them. If you reach up to level 5 and then you do the meditate action, and the trophy hasn't been taken, you can gain a trophy either under combat, defense, alchemy, or speed. And this speed is just specialty. And then when you get these trophies, just slide them under your board. And it's kind of nice that they stick out a little bit, but it does get a little rough when you have to start making a long conga line. The goal of the game is fairly simple. So in this corner here, this is what we call the trophy track. So every time you level up this track, you have to remove a card from your deck, depending on what level you are. And then this other number is what people get in payment for dueling you. So if a guy duels you and wins, they'd get 1. But if you're at level 2, they'd get 2, and so on. Once you reach the top right here, you win. This is actually a racing game under the guise of a heavy combat game. So your goals is to get trophies. So like I said, you can get trophies from dueling people, you can get trophies from meditating, and you can get trophies from killing monsters. Trophies are really cool. They give you a lot of special abilities and buffs, so that's a really nice mechanic. Are they always useful? Sometimes, sometimes not. Everything is kind of situational. But the last trophy that you can get to win the game must be gained through combat. So you can't sit here and just max out your board and hope that you can meditate and get your last trophy and win. That was a specific note in the game manual that they did not want people doing that. So you must always win the last battle by combat. And this system is really neat because the burning cards from fatigue is slowing you down to balance, and it actually increases the risk-reward mechanic even faster. So now some people say because of that, the monsters are really easy to kill. And I can see that, but I also have a counter argument to it. Because this game is a race, and the monsters do deal massive amounts of damage. That's a 4 damage attack. That's another 4 damage attack. You're going to notice a lot of these attack cards do massive amounts of damage. And that's because if you pick a fight with a monster your first turn, and you only have a 10 card deck, you only have 10 health. That monster is going to basically wipe you out instantly because you're going to draw your combat hand, or whatever cards you have in your hand, and they're going to drop to your combat value. So you're probably going to die. And that's where combat and card combos and prepping is really important. That's what I really like about this game, because it really feels like you're hunting. Not hunting like going out in the woods hunting, but like no one goes hunting not prepared. And that's a big part of the Witcher lore. So, you have 3 phases in this game. And you're going to have your starting hand that kind of tells you. So when you get your starting hand, it's going to have all these icons at the bottom. These are location icons you can move to. So, let's say I'm over here and I want to go to Loch Icar to gamble. I have to discard a water. Now I can go there. But let's say I didn't have a water card. Well, I can discard 1 and pay a coin to go there. Now let's say I didn't have that. Let's say, I don't know. I didn't want to give up my money. Let's say I just had no money. I had to discard now 2 of any card to do that. And this is a really cool mechanic because it slows down your preparation. I really like it, and you always have something to do because you're never ever going to be out of cards during phase 1. It's a cool balance mechanic, and it's also really important because it affects what you're going to buy in the market. You always want to buy the best cards, and they always say 2 is the best card, and that's iffy. But you have to look at the symbol, because if it's a 0 card or 1 card or 2 card, if you buy it, you draw it into your hand. So you actually start your turn with 4 cards. And that's really cool because you can now plot your planning and movement. It might not be the best card to buy, but it's good because you're never really out of options. Also, as an interesting rule, you must move. So you can't just sit here all day. Another interesting cool mechanic I really like is when you move, you can do the town ability, and then you can move again and do another town ability. It's really cool. If you stay in a town, you don't get to use that ability before you move. It has to be when you move into it. So starting a location, you have to return to that location to actually get those actions. I think that's actually kind of smart. So phase 2 is fighting. Oh, other interesting side note about movement. So you're going to get these quest cards. They're going to tell you to go to a location. That location effect only triggers when you move into it. So that's important to remember before you get to phase 2, which is where you can fight, meditate, or explore. Fighting is fairly simple. You're basically going to go to the location. You find where the monster is. Let's say it's this Necker thingy. And depending on if you have what they call a trail token, when you flip this over, this gives you basically initiative in the fight. This allows you to fight first. Usually don't start with these. You have to do what's called a trail action, which is like Dolith right here. You get a gold, but then it gives you a trail token of your choice. You don't know what trail, or you don't know where that trail is. You flip it over, and you put a gold coin under it. Once you reach that location, you can collect the money and the trail token. So if you have initiative, and this guy has 12 health, you can open up with really cool combos. But all monsters have special abilities. So like the Ghoul's Nest right here, during the first fight turn only, the monster may only discard up to 2 cards. Basically means you can only do 2 damage to him. Now if the monster goes first, whatever. And then when you fight them, you're going to do what's called card comboing. Oh, before I get too far. So the Necro has 12 health, and this is where the randomness of the monster attack cards come in. What is this? 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10, 11, 12. And the monster also has this really odd token, and that's because when the monster attacks, you flip over the top card. But before you flip over the top card, someone has to announce it's either going to be a bite or headbutt. And depending on what the result is, you must discard that damage. So let's say I had 2 shields. I don't know, let's just put some arbitrary stats here. Yeah, everything, sure. So the first thing I have to do is reduce my shield level by 2. That stops 2 of the 5 damage. And then I have to discard cards from my deck. Once you're out of cards in your deck, you have to start discarding from your hand. Now, there are certain effects that in the monster deck that will make you discard from your hand, which is actually really crippling. Once you're actually out of cards, you're knocked out. So once the monster goes, you can go and you can do, basically you have to play a card, 1 card minimum, or you can do, they call it card combo, a 1 card combo, which I don't know why they did that. But there's a really cool mechanic in the game that has to go with the deck building and how fighting works, and I really, really enjoy this mechanic. So here we have a card that does 1 damage. You see this tab here, that is also 1 damage, but you must play another card that actually lines up with it. So here I'll play Quick Slash with it. So now you get this bonus with the other card bonus. And you can keep on comboing as long as you have cards that chain into each other. So now it's doing, instead of 1 damage, it's doing 3. Really cool mechanic. Then it covers, it goes in your discard pile. And then at the end of your combat round, you're going to draw how many cards equal to whatever's listed on your combat ability. Now that being said, during this turn also, the first turn the Witcher gets to initiate combat, you're going to be able to use preparation stuff as drinking potions, your special ability, because they usually trigger off, as you can see right here, once per fight during the first fight turn. Key thing to remember, since a lot of people seem to forget that. And then your trophy abilities also have some things that will trigger. So it's a really neat system. I really like it. But, you know, people say the combat's kind of easy. I don't know. When you get hit for 5 right off the bat because you're trying to do risk all for everything, that's a bad time. But the next action you can do is meditate. And this is where I said once you get to 5 on a stat, instead of going to town, you can meditate to gain a trophy. The last action you can do is called Explore. And the Explore mechanic's really cool because you can choose between exploring the city or the woods. And depending on what the quest is or what the card tells you to do, you might be able to get a quest. And quests are kind of neat. But every card is broken into two parts. So you basically have your dialogue here, and then you have your choice, A or B. And then depending on what your choice, you're going to go to the second part here and do what it says. So on this card, it specifically says on B, you gain a quest. It says mountain. So you're going to take a random mountain token, and then when you enter 24, when you get to that location of the mountain token. It's a really neat ability, and this deck right here is basically the fixed goods that go to these quests. So, phase 3. So this is basically your end turn. You're going to draw 3 cards or 2 cards. 2 cards if you usually, because something in the story said otherwise, it usually says draw 1 less card, or because you lost a fight with a monster. And then when you draw those 3 cards, you're going to draw them from your active deck, not your discard pile. So you draw 3 cards, and then you can buy cards. So we have this market board here. So those cards, they have a card cost in the corner, 1, and the +1. So this means you have to discard 2 cards to take that card into your hand. Same with this. This just costs 2, and these are 0. The 0 cards, also a -1 all the way at the end. 0 cards are really cool because you can just take them in your hand. They're not always the strongest, and they're not always the best, but sometimes they help. Because one of the neat things about this game is you can look at your deck at any time, except combat. And it allows you to actually figure out what synergies go with it. You can also just look at your hand and go like, well, I want to go to that location. So let's say I was still back here for reasons. And I wanted to go to this water location, but I don't have any water cards. Hypothetically speaking, these are not water cards. So I would take this card. And the reason I want to take this card is it also has a water action, so it's going where I want to go, but it also combos into one of my other cards I have. So let's say I was short that water card and I want to do a fight. So it's just a really cool mechanic that you can, it's very flexible is what I'm trying to say. And it gives you a lot of options and it doesn't feel restrictive. Some games you just don't have a turn, but in The Witcher, you can always do something. It might not be what you want to do, and that's a part I can get to understanding. So we have these locations, and like I said, this is where you want to move. There is a wild location, and there are wild cards. I don't know if they come in the regular edition, but they'll have the water, a forest, and a mountain. Also, as an interesting tangent that Jason brought up and really hates about this game, he hates the fact that there is this one location that, for some reason, there is no location token for. And I told him it's because it's a wild, and he made a big deal out of it.
Game's over, losers! I have all the money! Compare your lives to mine and then kill yourselves!
So one of the really interesting things about The Witcher 2 is you can make money. Money is critical because money is how you're going to level up at your schools. So whatever your skill is, you're going to pay X amount of money of the next level. So if my combat is level 1, I have to pay 2 gold to make it level 2. Your specialties are restricted only to your schools. And the reason that these exist is you're usually not allowed to over level yourself by going to like add more on here, because that only raises your combat level up to your level or one past your level. So let's say my combat was 2 right here. So I go here, it raises up 1. But if I come back here and I'm still level 2, or that's 2, yeah, I can't raise it to level 3. But if I go to the school here, I can pay to raise that. So you're always able to get by also without needing money. Money is important for some quests require you to spend money. Money is important for travel, which is what I mainly found it's good for. And the last thing is it's really good for if you want to specialize and be better at fighting, defense, alchemy, or you just want to upgrade your special ability. You can also make money by gambling. So at Locking, or this location, they have what they call poker dice. You throw in 1 money, and the city throws in 2. With that, you roll dice, and you compare basically as poker, if you got pairs, full houses, flushes, straights, whatever. And winner takes all. Another neat mechanic in the game is you can play dice poker with other Witchers. So if 2 Witchers are in the same location, you can bet against another Witcher and try to take their money, which strategically might be really good because you want to be able, not them outpacing you by going to a school. They might have needed that money for schooling. They might have needed that money for buying something that they were planning on. They might need that money for literally traveling. And it's kind of a way to handicap them. So it's a really cool idea. And then as a side thing, if 3 Witchers are in a location, the Witcher that's not being gambled against can bet on the outcome. So they could put a coin up here. That doesn't really matter because you can also do this with dueling. And if you bet correctly on the winner, you also get $1. So it's actually really cool. You can also have Witchers duel each other. So 2 Witchers are going to duel each other, and they're going to duel each other pretty much the same way the monsters do. But if there's a 3rd Witcher on the sidelines, they can bet who's going to win. Either the initiator, the guy who started the fight, or the defender. Now in that, if the defender won, they really don't get much. If the guy who initiated the fight won, they will collect a trophy from the person they just defeated. You can only have 1 trophy of any other Witcher. And usually I wouldn't see why you'd want more. So money is really flexible. It seems really restrictive, but there's many ways to make money. You can make money through tracking. You can make money, like I said, through gambling. This location, if you have no money, it's going to give you money. And then all these events, they give you money too. So money is not really that hard to make. So let's get to the deck building. So when you buy cards, some cards will tell you to trash cards. I don't know if they're in the core box. But they're going to tell you to trash a card. That card is now removed from your deck. Same with fatigue. When you trash the card, you burn it, it's out of your deck. It makes your deck thinner and leaner, but that is your health. So that's important to remember, because when you're out of cards, you die. And as stated, going up this track, many ways to gain trophies, but to get to the top, you must win the combat. And that's where the monsters also get harder. So level 1 monsters all the way to level 3. You defeat a level 1 monster, it's now going to be replaced with a level 2 monster, and so on. So things I really like about the game, and I actually think it's really cool. This game is a race. It can be long or short as possible, so you can spend a lot of time running around, going off, dueling each other, gaining trophies, prepping, getting your character stats all the way up to where you want them to be. I really like that. But I can also see one of the problems that people bring up is it's short too, because if you play with really competitive people, this is a slaughterfest. Everyone is going to try to min-max. And some people aren't there. They want to enjoy and have the story. And there's an expansion, the Wild Hunt expansion, that adds to that because it now turns the game co-op. I like the combat system. I love the card combos. I love sitting here and trying to buy cards that let me combo into other cards, building my deck in League. For me, nothing is better than actually having a tracking token that matches the location and to basically play my whole hand as a first shot kill. It's not that hard to do, but it does take some prep, so it can make the game a little long. I like the prepping mechanic because I like the risk-reward system. If you're constantly burning through here, you've lost 3 health. Granted, you should have gained 3 health by that time, and then so on. And I said, there's effects that make you burn cards too. You might want to burn cards just because some cards are better than others that tell you have to burn a card to get it. So it's a risk because if you can't get those combat combos to pull off, you're going to die. And dying is actually not that bad in the game. I shouldn't say die, it's really you're defeated. When you're defeated, you kind of get cheated. What happens is when you lose, you don't get any money for killing a monster, which I forgot to mention, that is a way to make money, is to be successful in hunts. Or you can drive them away, which is basically you got the monster down to 1 or... You played your last card. If you got the monster to 1 or 0 cards for that damage, you push the monster away. You didn't win it, you just push the monster away. And the monster just runs off the board. You don't get its trophy, but you do get cash. But when you win a fight, it will usually tell you you get to draw extra cards and you can buy more stuff. It's a really cool ability. I like it. It gives you a lot of choice. And that's one of the things I enjoy about it. This is a self-contained story. This is a prequel to The Witcher before Geralt shows up, and we're in the world that CD Projekt made. It's kind of like Arkham 2nd Edition. You just get to build your guy and do your quests the way you want to do them. Because everything has a story. And you're literally just... It's an RPG light. It's nice. It's not overly complex. It's not a campaign game, so it's fun. The game is also very simple. Like, it's easy to teach this game. The base mechanics, I like it a lot. And one of the better pros of this game is there is no kingmaker. No one can get in the way of another player, literally, to screw them from winning. It is really up to combat. And I say this as in kingmaking, as in the guy coming in last place can do an action that will screw 2 people racing for first place. I haven't run into that yet in this game. There's nothing that says, oh, I can keep you here, I can stop you moving, or I can do this to screw you. Now, I can hinder you, but I can't block you, and that's what I talk about kingmaking. Because kingmaking is literally blocking another player to let another player win. So, again, flexibility of opportunity, there's always things to do, and that's great. There's no way you really are screwed. You just don't get the best actions. So, middle of the road stuff. The game is kind of expensive for the deluxe edition. I think you should get more for the deluxe edition, being around like $200 is what I saw. That's supposedly MSRP, but I've seen it go for like $159. For the regular version, I've seen it at $100 and I've seen it at $80. And for $100, you get a lot of cards and you get your 5 Witcher minis, but you're missing some stuff. The deluxe edition mainly comes, the difference is the monster minis, You get this closed token, which is used for dueling, because once two people duel at a location, it's shut down and no one can use those abilities at the location. Side note of fighting, I forgot to mention. So, I don't know if it's really worth it. That's up to you. I think the game can be played with, I think, cardboard tokens. There is a little gripe with the cardboard tokens I have to get to. Another middle of the road thing, this rulebook. It kind of sucks. There's no glossary or index in it, which I hate. I always believe, well, they have a glossary, but it's not great. And there's no index to find stuff. And some of the reading was really hard to understand. I don't know if it's translation issues. I don't know if that's how European game designers design their manuals. I've noticed this is a trend. Because it was never clear on how discarding works for the monster deck. So we had to read it a few times to understand, no, you flip this card over and just leave it there. So it's very literal, and it can be kind of hard to understand in certain parts. This combat token doesn't really feel like agency. It's just, so when we were playing, we were just flipping it like a coin, because we had no idea. Because you have to pick for the monster attacks before this card is flipped up. The only time this stays up is if somehow the Witcher didn't do any damage during their combat turn, then yeah, you're going to know what to pick. But it's been rare that happens, but it does happen. Setup and organization, depending on how many expansions you have and you want to play, this game can get pretty complicated to set up. The basic game, I set this up in like 5 minutes. Not bad. And, you know, that's pretty good, really. But once you start adding in all the components and everything you want to play, especially since I have the all-in and it's in one box mostly, there's a lot of components and it's a table hog. One of the reasons I keep the Arkham Horror mat out here is it's a 3x3 mat. It already shows you how big this board is. Now, that being said, with certain expansions, one expansion adds a whole new region here, basically, about one board or half a board. And the other, the Mage expansion, adds another here. So this mat can get pretty big. It's actually wider than the table. So now to like the things I really, just what I really hate. Because I have the all-in, I've seen photos and I've had people tell me that it all fits in and it works. And I've looked at the photos and I've looked at the video, the one video I found when some guy told me that. I don't know how they put everything in. I don't know if it's because they're using a thinner sleeve. But with my sleeves that I got from Go On Board Games with the all-in, they do not fit. I can't fit them in without breaking something, and I'm not going to break anything in this. So I actually have the extra cards sitting off in a box on the side. If I do what some people tell me with the Adrian Mini, oh, there's a spot to throw them in, which I'm like, yeah, that's not really a good spot. There's no support for them. And the other thing is, there's really no space for the tokens in the game. I found that kind of weird for the box. It really just didn't make sense to me. I don't know how it's going to be in the deluxe edition or the retail regular edition. So I encourage someone, actually show me, please, or tell me how I'm going to be able to fit everything in properly without wrecking anything. I really would appreciate that. So now to actual gameplay cons. In the quest deck, there is not a lot of equipment, and the equipment can be pretty breaking at times. There's just not a lot. It's random on how you get it. Also, your companions. Some companions, really broken. Like one companion, I don't remember if it was part of the core or as an expansion, but when you get that companion, you don't ever have to get lead tokens. You can just always have first strike. And it's a really powerful ability. These are all unique. There's only one of each except for the crossbow, but they're two different crossbows. So equipment and getting them, because it's through events, it's just random. I don't like that. Some of the potions, which you can use for combat, some of the potions just aren't very useful for when you need them. Now granted, you can get abilities that discard them, but you have to set that up and that takes time. So not too fond of that. But in my opinion, this is a very, very good game. I know that it's not the Witcher world that everyone wanted when it was first announced. Everyone thought you were going to do the Geralt thing and actually like do part of the Wild Hunt or whatever the other video games are, or the stories from the books. But it is a very lore-rich environment. There's tons of dialogue and story in here. The monsters are really cool. When you defeat them too, there's a little story on the back above the trophy part. So like I said, you are telling your own story. I really like that. And it's not a long campaign game where it's like, oh, guys, we got to come back here. And especially when a campaign drags. And just about every game drags. I'm not exactly sure why, but there's always a lull in the campaign where the campaign just sucks. And that's every campaign game I've played. I've never seen a campaign game where like we were super excited to like constantly play it nonstop. So this being an actual self-contained board game is a huge pro. The components are good. The components I have are good. I don't know, like I said, about the retail version. But I know the deluxe version components, like I said, the minis are really good. This is a little cosmetic thing, but it's neat. And getting this is also kind of nice because I tend to have issues with colors sometimes. It's better than the paper. So the paper token, but they gave me that in the regular version. But I really like the game. It's easy to play. It's fun. There's always something to do. There's always a choice. It's not the best choice, but that choice gives it what makes it good for me. Because I don't like a game that literally just screws me out of turns. I don't like a game where someone else can screw me out of turns and just push me away. That's not fun. I like a game where you can interact with everyone. This allows you to duel witchers. It allows you to duel monsters. It allows you to go do your own thing. You still have to go fight monsters eventually. But this game is pretty much you can do. Now, I know there's more heavier interactions that people want, but dueling other people and gambling with other people and racing with other people, I think that's a pretty good balance. So I really like that. I can see the negativity because, like I said, some people think, oh, it's too easy. But I don't know if you're playing the game right. So I think it's fine. Like I said, it is random. There's a lot of RNG factors in here, but you can control them through preparation. So I don't think it's too bad. And I like that. So, in closing, I'd like to thank my subscribers and the viewers for watching this, especially if you're new to the channel. I highly encourage you to subscribe. I am going to do a review on all the expansions. I'm probably going to put them into one video. I don't think there's enough to go over everything for, well, maybe I'll do one video for each one. I don't know yet. Let me know in the comments. Other than that, I'd like to remind everyone, I am still doing the 2023 giveaway. So if you've seen that little tab pop up at around the 1 minute mark in this video, click on that link. Go check out that video. You might win what I'm giving away. And I do plan on doing future giveaways because if you watch Lord of Hellas all the way through, you know I have an extra Sundrop Valkyrie that I have no need for. So I plan on giving that away too. But other than that, this is Ben with GG, reminding you to have a good game. Take care, guys.